Welcome to New Vision TV News. I am Rothina Sadio, broadcast from the New Vision newsroom. We'll take a look at the news around Uganda, around East Africa, around the world, and later in this bulletin, we shall take a look at our daily Pearl of Africa series and also a special report. We start off with the news around Uganda, where we look at stories making news across the country. We start from the capital, Kampala. Now, Solomon Kadu, a man who menacingly charged at the Bishop of Namirembe, has been found innocent. Kadu, a tour and travel driver and resident of Mengo, Rubaga Division, was facing 3 counts, including inciting violence, in which prosecution says he had the intention to annoy or injure Bishop LUWALIRA'S and Reverend Beno Chicho, the Dean of Namirembe Diocese. But today, the Grade 1 Magistrate Natete Rubaga Court, Joel Wegoye, found Herbert not guilty of the offences, basing on the evidence presented to the court. Now, due to his mental illness records, the court decided to withdraw all the charges and pronounced Herbert not guilty. But the magistrate decided to detain him in Luzira prison until the minister proves whether he is fit to live within the public. We move on to Kamule district, where because their husbands have cut down all the forests and not planted trees to provide firewood, the women in Kaliro and Buyende districts along the Lake Chuga shores now harvest firewood from the west high waters. It is risky because the lake is inhabited by crocodiles and snakes, but the poor women have no option. Using boats, they wade through the papyrus reeds to get the soft wood known as ebigogolo. Incidents of crocodiles attacking and mauling women while collecting firewood or drawing water have been reported. Now, since women have to prepare food, they take the risk lest their families starve. So every day, in drives, they paddle through the water for the soft wood, which they use as fuel to cook. From MPG district, now the police are holding a 39-year-old man suspected of killing his colleague over pork. According to Joseph Tulia, the Katonga region police publicist, Jarave Samanya, a resident of Gaza village in MPG town council, is being held. Amanya, a casual laborer on a farm in the area, was arrested on Wednesday night after a resident accused him of killing his colleague. The story started when a dispute over pork between Amanya and Emmanuel Kakoza, his workmate, on the farm. It is said Kakoza had kept pork for his supper before he went to a nearby trading center for a drink. Upon return at night, he found an empty saucepan. He attacked Amanya and a fight ensued, which ended Kakoza's life. News coming in from Lyantonde district. Now, the State Minister for Animal Industry, Joy Kabatsi, has directed LC5 chairpersons and district chief administrative officers to sack all veterinary officers who have failed to provide technical assistance to farmers in various districts. Kabatsi made the directives yesterday when she was the chief guest at the celebrations of June Dairy Month held at Lyantonde Town Grounds in Lyantonde district. She made the directives after realizing that very few veterinary officers had turned up for the event despite being invited. She had earlier received reports that some veterinary and extension workers were demanding huge sums of money from farmers to give them technical assistance. Now, farmers attributed this to some of the reasons that tick-borne disease and other animal diseases have spread. A report coming in from Gulu district. Now, the Chief Justice, Bart Katrebe, has assured prisoners in various government prisons in Uganda that the judiciary will ensure that their constitutional rights are protected by delivering justice to them through the courts of law. He said with the current 886 accused inmates on remand at Gulu, the government central prison alone, out of over 57,000 in the country, it will take years for the judiciary to reach all the courts in the country. He therefore says plea bargaining, which is a special session under the High Court, to help speed up and deliver justice to inmates. He appealed to inmates, especially those on remand awaiting justice to be delivered, take the advantage of the plea bargain, which may give them a platform to negotiate with the lawyers and get minimal or appropriate sentences. Coming in from Arua district, now an elder man and grandfather has joined 37 others in a case where the group is accused of stoning a presidential motorcade during the Arua municipality by-elections in August last year. Risasi Amabua had gone for a football match in Gulu district between West Nile and Acholi sub-region, and on his return over the weekend, he was told the police was looking for him. Issa Umal, a grandson to the suspect, said he had tried to run away on learning the police was looking for him, but he was convinced to hand himself to the police. He is now under detention at Arua Central Police Station. The West Nile Regional Crime Officer, Herbert Wanyoto, confirmed Amabua is being held in connection with stoning the presidential motorcade, and he is in Gulu to answer treason charges. News coming in from Wakiso district. Now 77 land titles were given to teachers under the St. Peter's Credit Savings Scheme. The Minister for Primary Education, Rosemary Nansubugaseninde, officiated at the function where the teachers received their land titles on Friday. St. Peter's Primary School, Zambia Staff Credit and Savings Scheme was started in 1997 by the then teachers of the school with the aim of saving money for their salary to help them when need arises. The teachers later used their savings to buy 11 acres of land in the outskirts of Kampala. According to Frederick Nyanzi, the brain behind the scheme, they started the savings scheme as contribution whenever any staff member would be having a wedding, a sick child, or lost a relative. News for those in Kasese. The Health Ministry is scheduled to deploy a high-tech mobile laboratory to Kasese district to facilitate faster screening of persons for the Ebola virus. No person has tested positive for Ebola in Uganda for the last 5 days since last week when 2 people died from the disease. 2 persons suspected to have contracted the infection have been subjected to a second round of tests. Now, the Health Ministry's Senior Communications Officer, Aineviona, says the initial tests show that they do not have the infection. On Tuesday, the 2 suspected cases were admitted to Bura Hospital and isolated pending tests. Let's close the news around Uganda with a story that everyone is talking about. You know why? Because the 2018 Best Farmers are in the Netherlands. Now, the winners are concluding their 4th day in Netherlands, where they are acquiring skills on how to improve their farming. Since their arrival in the Netherlands, the 8 farmers have visited various farms. On Wednesday, they visited Reciproc, a large Dutch company that produces and supplies dairy equipment to farmers across the world. Patrick Sechimpi, a dairy farmer from LUWALIRA', is overjoyed about the new methods of dairy farming practiced in the Netherlands. He hopes to take this home when he returns to his farm. Now, farmers also had a good time at Vakoijen Champions BV, a mushroom producing company located at Hovik 2A, south of Holland. Cohen Vakoijen, a 45-year-old Dutch mushroom farmer, said that he has been in the business since he was 5 years. He urged farmers to encourage their families to participate on the farm.
From small till I was 5-6 years old, I was always interested in growing mushrooms. When I come from school, I was in the farm and want to help my father with working and doing all kind of things. And that was always my interest. School was important, but when I go back from school, I want to go into the business, help my father with doing things.
Like other farmers, a Ugandan mushroom farmer, Abel Kidu, could not hide his excitement. He was able to tap in the Cohen's experience through a one-on-one business talk. The benefits of the trip to the Netherlands to Uganda's best farmers is to encourage them learn as much as they can to remain relevant in the country's agriculture sector.
His grandfather and his pork.
We now take a look at the stories making news across the East African region. Starting off from Kenya, now 3 men, Rashid Charles Imberesero, Mohammed Ali Abika, Hassan Eddin Hassan, are waiting to hear their sentence after being found guilty of conspiracy to commit the 2015 attack on Garissa University. Some 148 people were killed In the attack, the men belong to the Al-Shabaab Islamic militant group that has carried out several attacks in the East African country. For the Garissa vast attack and belonging to the Al-Shabaab, the trio will be sentenced on July 3rd. A fourth man was acquitted of both charges. The judgment offers little, if any, reprieve to the victims and their families. There will, however, be a sense of closure for a case that has dragged on for nearly 4 years. Closing off the news around East Africa is a story from Tanzania, where some Tanzanians are accusing Kenyans of not using correct Swahili on their new notes, which have been in circulation for just a fortnight. Now, Kenya has always used banki on its currency. In general, Tanzanians believe that they speak proper Swahili, saying the Kenyans mix it with other languages. Let's now take a look at some stories making news around the world. We start from Sudan. Now, in a lush garden cafe in Sudan's capital, a group of youngsters sit iron glued on mobile phones, seeking ways to bypass an internet blackout imposed by the army rulers. 25-year-old Mohammed Umar say the blackout feels like they have gone back in time. They are cut off from everything, even from the outside world. The internet on mobile phones and fixed line connections has been widely cut across Sudan since the violent disposal of a protest camp outside the army headquarters on June 3rd that left dozens dead and hundreds wounded. News from Ethiopia. Now, the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is expected to arrive in Sudan's capital, Khartoum, to follow up on the mediation process between the Transitional Military Council and the opposition forces for freedom and change, the Paris-based Sudan Tribune reports. It says Abiy will meet the two parties to try and persuade them to accept a draft agreement put together in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, on a political transition. Abiy was in Khartoum on 7th June, where he held separate meetings with opposition and the military council leaders. Moving on to Egypt. Egyptian Foreign Minister on Thursday condemned the irresponsible accusations by the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan that his ousted Egyptian counterpart Mohamed Morsi had been killed. In a statement, Sameh Shokri strongly condemned the repeated irresponsible accusations by the Turkish president about Egypt following Morsi's death on Monday after falling ill during a court hearing. We move on outside Africa and start from North Korea, where Chinese President Xi Jinping studied a historical visit in Pyongyang on Thursday to reboot a troubled alliance as he and the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un face their own challenges with the U.S. President Donald Trump. Xi is the first Chinese president to visit North Korea in 14 years after relations between the Cold War-era allies deteriorated over Pyongyang's nuclear provocations and Beijing's subsequent backing of the UN sanctions. Moving on to Thailand, now Southeast Asian leaders will dissect the impact of the US-China tariff war this weekend at the Bangkok summit, with Beijing determined to drive forward a trade pact sweeping in 40% of global commerce, but excluding America. Disputes in the flashpoint South China Sea and Myanmar's treatment of Rohingya Muslims are also likely to make the agenda at the two-day Association of Southeast Asian Nations meeting starting Saturday in the Thai capital, Bangkok. Closing off the news around the world is a story from Syria. Now, fighting raged in northwest Syria on Thursday with clashes between regime forces and jihadist-led fighters, killing 130 combatants in 2 days, a war monitor said. The Idlib region, home to some 3 million people, is supposed to be protected by a month-old international truce deal, but it has come under increased bombardment by the regime and its Russian allies since late April. On the southwestern edges of the jihadist-run enclave, bombardment and fierce fighting since Tuesday have killed 89 anti-regime fighters and left 41 dead on the government side, a Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said. That is it for the news around the world. We now take a short break, but when we come back, we shall take a look at what's making news in business.